you feel? And where have you been? Is this real? Am I dreaming? What's going on? Where am I? Am I awake? Do you still love me? Live for nothing. I am a failure, and I love it. Deviant. Die for nothing. I am my own friend. I don't need anyone else. I'm just like
Now I'm here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Overwatch All-Star Brawl presented by Star eSports. We are, as always, a double elimination tournament dedicated to the Overwatch Tier 3 community. And tonight, we are going to have two of Tier 3's best taking the stage and going toe-to-toe. It's going to be Scion eSports taking on Inked. I'm Shy Guy, and I'm joined now by Got Moxie. We're so ready to go into this matchup. Moxie, tell me what you are expecting out of this series tonight.
It's a little bit like an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force, Shy Guy. Both of these teams have 3-0'd everyone that they've come up in this against in this competition so far. And so the question is who's going to be able to play on this latest patch, this pumpkin patch? Because we've seen so much of this kind of shift in how teams are really coming in to the tournament now that you've seen these significant nerfs being handed out to this Orisa Sigma double barrier meta. And so people are starting to move away from that and fall back into the sort of traditional Rein Zarya matchup, and even this Winston D.Va dive composition, which is surely going to make some sort of appearance today.
Well, I hope it makes an appearance. That would make me very happy to see Dive alive in 2019. It's everything that I've been hoping for right now. But I kind of think it's a bit premature to be counting out that double barrier comp. I think these teams are still practiced on it. They have been scrimming it for a long time, and unless they've been playing on the PTR, I think there's gonna be a little bit of inertia, especially with the two teams that we've got tonight. Scion and Inked, both very adept at playing that Doomfist Reaper DPS duo, and then the Orisa and Sigma that go alongside it.
You were actually telling me just a little bit earlier that you've had the pleasure of being able to see these T-Teams in actions before. I haven't actually been able to watch Inked in action, so I will ask, is there anyone that both myself and the viewers at home should really watch out for on this team?
Okay, I'm gonna point out two names, and the first might have a little bit trouble with those changes that you're talking about. The additional cooldown onto the Sigma experimental barrier. That's Krawi, the off tank for Inked. He has been one of the best Sigma players in this tournament so far, in my opinion. And then on the other side, on the DPS side of things, Kashir has really been a standout performer for them. So I really expect a lot out of those two. But if the meta is kind of in flux right now, everything we know about these teams could just be kind of out the window.
Yeah, so you haven't actually got the chance to cast any games since this patch has come in. I have actually been able to get to see a couple of teams to see how exactly they're going to be adapting to this. I've cast on the day that the patch came out. I've cast on the day after that the patch came out. And we were seeing a sort of fall back into these projectile DPS that are apparently coming back with a vengeance now that Sigma shield has indeed been hit with that 1 second cooldown that it didn't quite have before. You can use so much of that opportunity, hope that the Sigma positions a barrier one way, and then the Pharah can finally get that drop in and attempt to get the barrage off without just finding a shield in her face.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the Pharah, because if that's going to be something that lets you kind of counter that Sigma pick that has been so strong recently, then Scion is going to be in for a bit of a treat. Cohesion flashed the Pharah last week in their game against Team 2, and he absolutely went to town, was a menace up in the skies. And if that's going to be a power pick in this meta, then Cohesion is definitely going to be one of the most important members on the side of Scion.
Well, heading to Nepal, it's not a definite that we're going to be seeing this pharmacy coming out, because you do still have teams falling into this Doomfist Reaper DPS duo that they've been sticking to quite rigidly before the patch hit. But now that the Doomfist has in fact been a little bit nerfed himself, you get less shields when you manage to get those abilities to hit. And the real impact, I would say, is this now wind up that's so much longer on the rocket punch. It really does allow for the outplay potential to just be so much more than it was before. You can hit the sleep darts. If you're a Zen, you can maybe land the volley of the headshots, which confirms the kill before you're splattered into the wall and of the next tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. And it looks like we're just about ready to get into this games. And I like what you said there about the supports having a little bit of a way to fight back against the Doomfist. For a while now, it's really felt like those rocket punches are the ability that decides so many fights. And I'll be excited to see that if the Doomfist is in play from the side of Inked here, then Scion have another great answer to that. Supreme has flashed the Ana even on the prior patch when she was gone from the meta. So if that is now a stronger pick, then again, Scion may be receiving a bit of a buff here.
Well, we'll be waiting to see whether these teams are going to go with this experiment of what's going to be new, or if they're going to fall back into the comfort pick of the double shield meta that they've been practicing for so long. I'm interested to see what exactly they're coming out with, and I think if one team decides to go for a sort of in with the new and the other goes with in with the old, then it's definitely going to be a sort of clash of the two titans to see which is going to be coming out on top.
Well, we've got the bones of a couple of team comps coming together right now, and it doesn't look like we're seeing a whole lot of changes from what we're used to right now. The Orisa and the Sigma both in play for both teams right now, so we're going to have a pretty standard matchup at the moment.
Yeah, and both teams opting for the Symmetra to just get that teleported down, get the team to touch the point a little faster than if they were walking, and then both of those DPS going to be swapping onto the Reaper, but Jay is actually going to be sticking with the Sombra.
We'll see what he can get done from the high ground. Getting individual hacks could be an opening for his team right now. He does get My Crazy Cat out of the fight, gets that first hack, and they collapse.
They're collapsing just onto the point right now, and it should be them being able to take up that point percentage. But the Orisa does go down, so it is Scion eSports not quite out of the point just yet.
Yeah, they lose their Orisa, and then the wall separates them from the point. They can't get in there to fight. Fix falls as well, and that is going to be a first take here for Scion.
Yeah, but Jay has managed to build up in that first engagement alone 46% to this EMP, and you have to imagine that that is going to be the initiation for Inked.
Indeed it is, but he falls late in this fight, was trying to stick around, maybe get a bat cap on the point, at least harassed a little bit. If that's going to be the engagement tool here for the side of Inked, then they've got to pick up the pace a little bit in terms they can't keep losing fights, waiting on Jay to build this ult.
Especially if PMA Jelly is going to be building up the Sidebar on his side. Supreme does have this Coalescence, so that's probably just going to be popped to let his team get so much sustain as Inked go for this approach.
Yes, they're coming in from the high ground, that Coalescence to open it up, but the wall is beautiful from Cohesion to buy his team some time. They've spawned with their own Coalescence, and the advantage now going in the direction of Scion as they push forward. The fight is breaking down, and My Crazy Cat is just running over them.
Yeah, and Kashid does manage to get the pick off onto the Sigma, but at that point it isn't really much value. You've already lost a little bit too many members, but Jai has managed to build this EMP. However, PMA Jelly's only a little bit away from his soundbar, and he will actually have it online for when the Sombra attempts to make that play, and so it's crucial that this Lucio doesn't get caught out in the hack.
And he is carefully hiding away on the side right now. Jay has him spotted out, but can he capitalize on it? Can he get an individual hack onto the Lucio before the fight gets going? Not gonna happen. And now Jay coming in for the EMP. The barrier is there, and they've turned it around on him. The Sombra falls, and the kills so far still going in the direction of Scion. They throw in the Blizzard from the back, and that's gonna decimate Ink.
Ink seem to rely on just this one EMP, and unfortunately it just takes them just a little bit too long to build it, and with 97% on the board, they just wait too little too late. There is going to be a sort of contest coming through, but it's going to be very much a last desperate struggle.
Indeed, and the wall is even going to deny that away for Ink. They had 4 members and even a 5th coming back on the Wrecking Ball. If they can get in for an overtime, that fight is not over, but the wall from Cohesion saves it at the end, and Scion get the first win here on Nepal.
Yeah, they rely so heavily on the Sombra, and that can work out for you. As long as the Sombra is able to build that EMP up, that was such a slow EMP. I've seen Sombras get 3-4 EMPs off in the time that it took Jay to build that one. And when he does manage to pull it off, the Lucio isn't caught in that radius. And that's the target that you had to make sure is caught, because that Sign Barrier is there to just bail the team out, allowing for them to just hold on to that point. And now Ink, they're going to be swapping up a little bit, setting up with this Bastion. And it's going to be Crazy Cat actually going for the mirror. Going to be the battle of the bots.
Yes, the off tank though is the battle that I'm really interested in. Can Cowman make this diva work against the double shielded Bastion on the side of Inked? It's gonna be interesting. Is Ink trying to take the high ground right now? They've done so successfully. That extra shield coming in handy, but right now no one really able to find the killing blows.
Yeah, and Cohesion is actually going to be flying up on the Farah, but not going to get pocketed by PMA Jellies, who's reserving all of that support for Crazy Cat. The res comes through onto Niche, so Ink do have a sort of opportunity here. The res going to be going down, means any kill they pick up is permanent.
Indeed it is, but the Farah right now controlling a lot of space, and it's going to allow the first cap to go over to Scion. Cowman on the point, able to get that ticking up in their favor, and that's going to be huge in these fights that have been really slow until Best Bolby finds two. Cohesion goes in for the barrage, but only gets the immortality field.
Yeah, but Ink still haven't managed to capture this point. They played very passively around it up until that aggressive push, and they will have ultimates now to make sure that they hold on to this. But you've seen that Scion have actually managed to capture almost a quarter simply because Ink just didn't set up a contest on that point.
No, they didn't, but I think they'll be content with getting their Bastion in the proper position. He's locked down this high ground right now. Cohesion steps out a bit too far. The res will be there. So an opportunity for Scion to go in 6v6. But now they're at a disadvantage, but they lose people off the side. Niche with the pull takes Crawley and Jay to an early death. That's going to be an immediate retake for Scion.
That's free environmental kills coming off the side of Scion, means that you don't have to worry about those big chunky HPs of the tanks. Just boom, off the map they go, and they'll be picking up quite a lot of ultimate charge for that as well. So now they have ultimates of their own in their pocket for when Ink decide to make their approach. You can imagine that both of these teams are going to be trying to initiate with the superchargers, putting down so much damage. Jai might pop the Bastion ultimate, but we might see Kasha just try and throw in a Blizzard, freeze them all up first.
At the very least, that can force the rotation from the rest of Scion as they hold far back here. They want to make Ink try to cover this space, but Fix chiming in, gets around on the flank on the Ana, takes down the Farah, the Mercy as well, and now a 6v4 in favor of Ink as they try to get this retake. They're putting pressure on the point. That was beautifully done.
And no ultimates committed on the side of Inked. They simply just let the Ana get the flank off, get the 2 picks off, pressure the Sigma as well, who falls down at the final kind of part of that fight. And Inked, they now have 5 ultimates to hold on to this point. A mage set up on point, ready to put down that Blizzard for when the Farah Cohesion decides to commit, because the barrage is there and available.
The Blizzard out, but Cowman swallows it up with that graph. Jay still doing the work though on the Bastion. Firing into the back line and takes down.
Yeah, it's almost as if Inked have sort of woken up and smelled not the Sombra but the Bastion. They've definitely found a new lease of life on this composition, and now you have Kroll just setting up quite aggressively on the Sigma, trying to find a little bit of extra ultimate charge, get that flux online. If you're Scion eSports, it's coming into sort of the final fight territory. You might be able to get 2 pushes in if you lose this one quickly or manage to grab the point as fast, but it's going to be very hard to walk into this composition.
They will commit with that Amp Matrix. They're able to blow up Giant Cohesion around the back with the barrage, gets 2 and stays alive all through it. So now yet another retake. It's been a seesaw effort here on Nepal as Scion once again going to be able to flip it back.
Yeah, but it's going to be 93%, still counting actually, because the May manages to get that little bit of a stall on the point. So if you're Inked, you are pretty happy with the percentage that you've managed to accrue. You have Jay's ultimate to open things up. Maybe you combine it with the Sigma ultimate to make sure that all of those targets are nice and juicy and easy to reach for that Bastion to hit. My Crazy Cat has also got the ultimate ready to pop, with Cayman coming up to a flux of his own. But you have to think of these Batistes. Do you try and pull the immortality field out of both to make sure that you can actually secure the kills?
That Flux can just lift them above the Immortality field and give them an opportunity to close out the fight right now. No field available for Inked as they push out, and Scion just gonna tear through them. Crazy Cat unopposed on the high ground, and that's gonna be it. Scion get the 2-0 here on Nepal.
Inked seemed as if they'd kind of worked out how exactly to counter what Scion were throwing at them. But Scion manages to pull it back with that really nice play, and unfortunately they capitalize on Inked's Batiste's mistake putting down the Immortality field when you're all up in the air instead of when you hit the ground. And so it's very easy to take the Immortality field down, especially with the nerf to the HP that it has only just received. And so Batiste, if they put down those Immortality fields too early, they really are going to be punished for it now.
Absolutely, especially in that Bastion v Bastion matchup. I mean, the Immortality field is the crucial cooldown when you're running those comps. If you can take the other team's Immortality field out, you still have yours hiding behind a corner. That's a one fight right there. That's exactly what we see from Scion. And they kind of turn things on their head. I saw both these teams play Nepal last week. Inked was the one using the Bastion to their favor. Scion, a new look from them, at least in part, and they get the better end of that matchup.
Well, it could be that Scion have done their research in preparation, so they sort of had an idea of what Inked would throw at them and were then prepared to be able to counter it.
Absolutely, and now if you're Inked, you are meeting your first little bit of resistance in this tournament so far. That's your first map loss of this event, so the onus goes back on you. Like this is now where you have to show that the 2 3-0s to start this event were not flukes, that you are here for a reason. And I think there's still plenty of time for that to come into play as we move forward in this series.
There's plenty of time for them to come back. It wasn't an absolute curb stomp on that point. It got pretty close for Ink there to be able to clinch out that map, but Scion managed to pull it back at the last moment. So Ink, they still have opportunities to manage to get this one back, but you were right, it's not going to be a 3-0 stomp for either of those two teams today.
Well, still in play for Scion if they can keep up this pace. They looked very strong there in Nepal. I would say Inked gave them their toughest challenge of the tournament so far, but still, Scion in control of the series at this point, and it looks like we're going to be headed to Hollywood for map number 2.
Well, this could be more of the same, this Bastion defense, which you can put into play on that Hollywood defense on point A and get just set up in that little bit of a high ground right above the point and wait for the attackers to walk into you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be surprised at all if we see Crazy Cat or Jay back on that Bastion as we head into Hollywood. So good for that point A defense. It can be a tool that pretty much only works on that first point. So yeah. it's a little bit of a risky strategy here on Hollywood because you might wind up in a situation where you're having to change up your comp afterwards. Although if the Orisa Sigma is where these teams want to live in this series, that's where they want to make their money, then that the Bastion comp works quite well with that.
I mean, it's a very high risk, high reward because you do see teams manage to get the full hold on that Hollywood defense with the Bastion strategy. But if you lose a point, you lose it pretty quickly. It's very much a case of the one attack that crushes your defense absolutely eviscerates you to the point where you just can't get that contest going and that payload does start to rumble on. And then indeed you're on the back foot for the rest of the match behind in the ultimate economy because those swaps mean that the ultimate meters are reset to 0.
Well, as we head into Hollywood, I do think it's going to give us a little bit more of an opportunity, possibly, to see some of those alternative compositions that you were talking about. I'd say alternative at this point; they're classic compositions. They are old school. They are boomer comps at this point, basically. And the dive in particular is what I'm thinking about, especially as you get into that streets phase of Hollywood. That there's a very real possibility we see the Diva and the Winston make an appearance.
Yeah, well, Diva and Winston's dive thrive off of the high ground, and there is certainly high ground in abound in the streets phase of Hollywood. But to get to that, you do have to capture that point first. And so once again, you have to ask yourself, do you swap up your composition once you've captured the point and commit to something entirely new where you're going to have to start essentially from scratch? And then on point C, once again, dive not really as viable as it is in Streets phase, which would then see you swap off to, say, maybe the Orisa Sigma or indeed the Rein Zarya.
Absolutely, the Rhine always great for kind of finishing off these payload maps, getting through that last stretch of ground on the track of the payload. And now we're going to be getting underway in just a minute. Scion is going to be on the attack to start off. Despite winning our first map, they get to choose map side. They choose attack, and this is something that this team likes to do. They want to keep the pressure on the team that they just beat. They want to go out, they want to put up 3 points here on Hollywood and really lay down the law.
Yeah, well, it's going to be actually, we sort of talked that perhaps this is going to be the Bastion defense, but Shaga, we were entirely wrong in our predictions. It's going to be Jai once again on the Sombra, and I hope for his team's sake that he's going to be able to build up that EMP a lot faster than he did on Nepal.
Absolutely. It wasn't really working out great for them in the last round, but they want to run it again here on the defense. Of course, Sombra getting a few kind of minor changes on the last patch. Nothing that really changes her place in the meta. But speaking of the meta changing, Cohesion back on that Pharah here on Hollywood and raining in rockets. Already finds Strafology, and you can't reposition the shield fast enough.
You can't indeed, but it doesn't matter. Kroll manages to pick up the kills on the Sigma. Maybe Sigma isn't so useless against Pharah after all, because Kroll's making it seem simple.
Yeah, who needs a shield when you can just land the accretion, you can hit your shots? Who knew that Sigma was an anti-air cannon, and so far working out well for the defense here, and that's the first fight win that they needed to get Jay's ultimate online.
Yeah, we're seeing a drastic difference in this Sombra's ultimate meter when it was in place to Nepal. This EMP is going to be up and online in time for when Scion eSports make their next approach. And if you can get it in that sweet spot for when Supreme starts to pop the EMP, it's just going to come straight out and get 6 people. And this is going to be an absolute swarm.
Oh, and that is a beautiful EMP coming out there from Jay. Able to absolutely set up the cleanup for his team. They surge forward aggressively, only lose 1 in that fight, and then only 1 member of Scion able to escape and live to tell the tale. Cowman gets out, and now on this Roadhog is an interesting look. No longer the double shield comp for Scion.
Yeah, they're going for this hook-halt combination, but Cohesion is picking up the kills the traditional way with arrows in the faces.
Yeah, he gets 3 for his troubles there, looking for more. Gonna wind up with 4 when it's all said and done. And there, Scion able to come back aggressively after losing to that EMP push. They have the Coalescence online, and they just take control of the point. They do it by force.
EMP is used so you don't have to worry about the Moira's ultimate being cut short unless Jay manages to get the hack just the normal way with the right hand click. But they are going to have ultimates Ink to try and make sure that this blood flow from this payload slowly starting to rumble on is stemmed. You do have this Orisa cornered up in this positioning, and they are just going to probably drop the Scion barriers, the supercharges, and just try and swarm onto payload.
That's exactly what they do. The Death Blossom there for good measure as well. Jay was in the back line, poking and prodding and laying in the extra damage to finish off low health targets. So the defense does come through, but it requires a heavy commitment in that combo.
Yeah, well, the defense they're trying to do is allow the time for Jay to build up the second EMP a little bit further away from it, but the Dragons are just going to come through and throw a wrench in their plans.
A lot of ultimates committed now, and Crawley gonna be the first one to chime in here. The Gravitic Flux takes down Cowman. All that health gone on the front line of Scion, and they're having to back off a little bit. They give some ground, but looking to re-engage off that pick from Cohesion. The Hanzo again finding pay dirt, but Crawley is bigger, gets the accretion onto the Death Blossom from Crazy Cat, and keeps his team in the fight.
You talked about that Sigma being such a huge impact. The EMP is actually thrown in very almost last minute as that fight is actually clearing up, so maybe the Sombra is going to be swapping off momentarily. That's the only reason why I think you would commit such a high impactful ultimate into a fight that you've essentially already lost, but the Sombra is going to stay on this field, and surely that has to be a massive mistake on the part of Inked.
Yeah, I think Jai thought they were still in that fight. The members were still alive at the point that he pressed Q. It's just they all died immediately thereafter. So now an awkward position here for the side of Inked as they back off there. They're losing ground. They don't have a lot of ults to re-engage here, and they're slowly but surely being forced into an awkward position. The kills starting to come in now for the side of Scion. Cowman chiming in with a double kill, and they're going to take point B easily.
Well, Scion have just so much sustain at the moment. They have that Scion barrier that they have the possibility of falling back on if the going gets tough. They had the Coalescence which got popped just to make sure that that payload did indeed reach that point. But Ink, they're going to have a little bit of sustain of their own. They're going to have a Coalescence, and Kishir is surely going to be looking for a big pick with this death loss and probably just going to try and drop in unnoticed from the high ground. But Crazy Cat is actually on the prowl and looking for the Reaper himself.
Indeed he is, and now everybody just grouping up for this next engagement. How's it going to come in here for Inked as they try to find someone caught out here? They're chasing Cohesion. Kashir will get that kill, isolate the Hanzo, and now give Inked an opportunity to push forward. The Coalescence is enough to take out the Supercharger, and Scion just having to back off a bit.
Yeah, and Scion actually sacrificed a couple of ultimates that they could have used to perhaps push in. The Superchargers go down just as Cohesion falls. There's going to be a swap off the Hanzo and onto the Mei, maybe going for that wall to try and prevent the Hulk from coming in. Jai has finally managed to build this EMP though. Surely they're going to be looking for the same sort of value it found on that point A defense.
They are, but he might not even need it. The Death Blossom going to be coming out from Kashir and finds nothing, gets shut down by Cowman, and now it's being turned around. Scion on the assault once again. They didn't have the ult advantage, but what they use well.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but Ink, they simply just choose the wrong tools to start that engagement off. If you started off with the EMP, then you guarantee that Coalescence can't be popped. You guarantee that there isn't a Scion barrier for Scion to fall back onto. And now you're on the back foot as you try and just find some way to claw yourself back into this defense.
As they are going to be able to commit with the EMP. The sound barrier, though, cancels it out pretty much. PMA Jelly saving the team, giving Scion a chance to regroup and come back in here for the fight that they wanted. The Flux set up by the Halt is nice, but no kills just yet. Scion now looking to get their opening, but they lose Cohesion in the middle of this fight, and I don't know how long they're going to be able to stick around even with the Coalescence. As it fades, they will have to back off. The Death Blossom in, though. They're ready to go. Crazy Cat it's a double kill there, and they're going to be able to finish it out.
Yeah, Ink just simply not able to determine the kills when they really need them. The EMP does come out, but once again, PMA Jellies is able to completely avoid it and then get that Scion barrier off to just negate all of the damage that's coming in for his team. The Sombra really does have to start trying to find this Lucio and making sure that he's caught in that radius.
That's been a bit of a problem so far. I mean, it was an issue on Nepal, and now it's an issue here on Hollywood, and it means that Inks are now in an awkward spot on this map too. 3 points on the board, over a minute in the time bank for Scion eSports. So even if Inked can go through, can blaze through this map, there's still going to be extra rounds here no matter what. And they've got to do it with time left if they want to have a chance of winning Hollywood.
Yeah, and surely that's got to be weighing on their minds. They know that they want to start pulling the maps back if they want to stand any sort of chance. Otherwise, they're going to be in this really awkward position where they have to get the reverse sweep, and any sort of defeated map is going to see them falling down to that losers bracket. It's going to be Jai once again on this Sombra. Maybe it's just going to be a little bit of a scout to see what exactly the defenders are going to be running. But with this Bastion, Crazy Cat out on that one, maybe you hold on to this Sombra, try and build up the EMP that we've seen have so much of an effect previously, and just use it to crack this defense down the middle.
I don't think this is a bad response to the Bastion, although, I mean, they don't know that the Bastion is there, but I think it works out quite well. This cafe position is such the definition of a bunker. You are basically kind of guarded on all sides, and the EMP one of the best ways to be able to break through that? Will he be able to build up enough charge? Because that's going to be the question for me.
Well, Jay doesn't necessarily have to build up the EMP because we do have a little bit of a Sombra buff coming in. When the Sigma gets hacked, the shield now does get recalled. So maybe you can get the hack onto the Sigma and then just let your team go onto that point to force a contest.
Oh, a beautiful immortality field coming out from PMA Jelly. Saves Cohesion, was about to get collapsed on by Inked as they were looking to take the point, and now they catch Scion mid-rotation, but no, Scion the one turning it around. Inked try to get aggressive, but it's not going to work out.
Yeah, the supports from Scion really save it for the team, both Supreme and PMA Jellies doing their absolute damnedest to make sure that Ink don't manage to find any sort of foothold on the point. The Batiste managing to save the mate, and then the Ana managing to land that absolutely massive anti onto the team as they go in for that point. Supreme already 96% onto this Nana when surely it's going to be coming onto that Bastion, putting down so much damage as Ink begin to make their approach.
And you've got the amplification matrix as well. That is a very dangerous Crazy Cat, but maybe not if he's not in turret form. Does get hacked out of that. Buys a little bit of time here for Inked in there. They're trying to take advantage of it. The Coalescence is out as the rotation is forced. Crazy Cat in the back line. He's got both of those ultimates ready to go. The Nano Boost and the Matrix coming out, beefing him up to an insane degree. He finds two, and even with that EMP, that should be enough. Kashir now in the back line. That could be the difference. He's finding the opportunities. He's taking down the members of Scion as they fall one by one, and that's going to be point A.
I mean, that EMP, if it hadn't worked out for the team, would have been such an absolutely massive mistake because Jade seems to be taking quite a while to build up to these, but they're not quite out of this fight. Scion, they're going to try and get a contest, throwing in the Blizzard, trying to just get a foothold back onto that point, but they're not going to find anything, and it will be Inked managing to pick up this payload and starting to roll through street space. But if you're Scion, you do have this flex, and you do have this Bastion that still has his ultimate, so you're gonna hold onto the Bastion possibly for this next engagement, and then and only then swap him off once he's used that ultimate.
This is an interesting decision to me. The Bastion ultimate not really considered one of the stronger DPS ults in the game right now, but Cohesion starts it off right. Kashir hiding on the high ground gets caught out by the Hanzo, but it doesn't even matter. The tank line of Inked just go in, they take out both supports, and they're gonna keep this rolling. The Bastion ult committed on the high ground, not finding anything just at this moment. No angle to find that damage, and still the kills going in direction of Inked.
Well, Crazy Cat knows that he's not going to be long for that ward, so he does indeed just kind of throw the ultimate in, trying to find any sort of pick to open it up for his team, and gonna swap immediately off onto the Reaper. But if you're Inked, you're in quite a nice position. You have your support ultimates to sustain you through these next fights. You have your superchargers to initiate, and they're putting them down right now.
The Coalescence and the supercharger chiming in. Fix gets in onto PMA Jellies, and that's one fewer support for Scion as they try to hold on here. The Dragon's a last-ditch effort, not gonna be enough. It's the two tanks trying to keep this one going, but it's not gonna happen. Niche, the last one left, will fall, and Inked keeping their hopes alive here on Hollywood. They storm through point B over 4 minutes to finish out the map.
Well, this is the burning pace that they really needed to set to have any sort of chance to be able to get this second round going in their favor. Cohesion is actually going to swap to the Sombra, but what do you do with one Sombra who doesn't have an EMP versus Jay, who already has one up and ready to be thrown in? But Fixed actually gets caught out by the Sombra, and now this is when Scion are just going to commit all forces.
Who needs an EMP if you can just shoot them dead? And that's exactly what happens as Scion regain control of the cart nicely there. They commit the supercharger to do it, but that's worthwhile as they buy themselves some time. They stop payload right inside the door.
Yeah, so Inked are running with this Moira Lucio, which was a lot of sustain, but if the Moira goes down, you are essentially dead in the water because that Lucio is just not going to be able to heal you through anything.
Okay, the Flux only finding one, but it is going to be enough for Inked to get in there, find 2 kills immediately. The Death Blossom from Kashir laying in the damage. So now we're headed into this last stretch of ground here on Hollywood. Jai still has that EMP ready to go, so a retake very much in the cards here for Scion.
Yeah, the Sombra does try to just build up that last little bit, the 25% remaining for the EMP by jumping onto the supports, but not going to find it. And it will be Jay who has been holding on, being a little bit stingy with this EMP, but going to put it in now and gets 5.
Ooh, and they immediately capitalize on it as well, surging forward. All the kills go in direction of Ink. That's exactly what they needed here. They time it perfectly, shut down any opportunity to retake there, and that be a finish here on Hollywood. They do it with 2:28 remaining on the clock, so they will have the advantage as we head into extra rounds.
Yeah, all over double the time that was set by Scion, and we're probably now going to be seeing perhaps a switch up to how these defenses were placed. Maybe we're going to see the swap off the Bastion onto something with quite not as high a reward, but just a little more chance of survivability if they get absolutely bum rushed.
Absolutely, but the Bastion was working out well at the initial stages of that defense, so it's still a possibility here, especially for the side of Scion when they come out. You know, they will likely need a pretty good defense unless they take this overtime offense and just go crazy with it. They will be changing things up a little bit on the attack, at least potentially. Cohesion teasing the Doomfist right now.
This is going to be very interesting to see how the new Doomfist interacts with Sombras. Sombras and Doomfist have traditionally been at very odd ends with each other, because if the Doomfist gets hacked, he is essentially a dead man walking, Shagger. He gets sent back to spawn pretty quickly when he's hampered and unable to punch things. So it's going to be Jay who's, again, just kind of starting out at the very beginning spawn area for Scion as they come through, relaying all of the information to his team on what composition these attackers are running with.
And this is going to be interesting. Can Jai keep Cohesion in check for this attack? He's coming around the back right now, waiting for an opportunity. Punches the Orisa into the wall. They collapse on Best Bulby, and the Doomfist already paying off here. Finds the opening pick. They have lost Crazy Cat in the meantime, but Cohesion still looking for more. Goes too deep and gets punished.
Yeah, you do have to remember that those shields that you receive upon your abilities hitting are now reduced, not drastically, but enough so that you feel the pressure. If you try and overcommit, you will be now severely punished. Supreme does have the Coalescence, but Fix likewise has one of these, so it's going to be whichever Moira manages to find more of an impact that's going to find the advantage for their team.
They're both out to kick things off. Everybody's still pretty healthy at this point. Cohesion, though, finds a stun in the backline. Crowy takes him down, and Supreme trying to answer back. No Strafology in this fight is giving Scion an opportunity to push forward, but they've got to make progress. They've got to get at least a tick here if they want to win this map, and they just might be doing it at the last second. Crazy Cat finding Fix, and still this very brawly engagement. Cohesion is back, though, and he's found pay dirt.
Well, both of the supports out of the way for Inked is going to make it very hard to manage to stay on this point, and it looks like Scion will be able to pick up point A and now let this payload start rolling through. It is in overtime though, however, Shy Guy, so you do have to remember that if they are dragged off this cart, that overtime bar will be ticking down, and that includes if you're dragged off it involuntarily by the Sigma, the Sig 9 that we like to refer to it as in the industry. So that is probably going to be what Inked are going to be trying to put their all into pulling off.
We've also got the EMP ready to go, but the Flux out from Cowman is going to come in first, takes out Strafology. The kills are pretty even at this point. Cohesion has to be the one to do it here for the side of Scion. He goes down. The Death Blossom in from the side of Kashir finds nothing, but still the control in favor of Ink. They deal with the Blossom from Crazy Cat. They deal with Cowman, and Scion are gonna be stopped here.
And finally, Ink find the picks that they so needed to try and hold on to that point. They managed to find it on that payload, but you do have to ask yourself, Shagai, is it gonna be enough? Are Sion gonna come in with this Bastion defense that Ink sort of struggled to break through at the beginning, and with 2 minutes 28 on the clock, it seems like a lot, but it really does burn down quite quickly.
It definitely does, but it's plenty of time for Jai to be able to build up to that EMP, and that's kind of the big, the press Q to win button. that they've got on their side right now. And that when you only need the first point, that might be enough, but you've got to go a little bit farther. You've really got to win 2 fights here on Hollywood to finish this map off. And that is going to be the question for Inked. How do you do that?
So essentially what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to build up a bank of ultimates, use EMP to win one entire team fight so that they then have tools that they can put in to the next one to make sure that they come out on the other side as the victor. And it really is going to be so much responsibility on this Sombra's shoulders to make sure that the EMP is pulled out at the right time. And we've talked about it earlier, PMA Jellies has been able to be so elusive when those EMP blasts come out that you have to make sure you really do crack down on this Lucio and make sure he is caught in that blast.
Yes, but a bit of a swap here for Scion. They're not going to use the Bastion this time around. Want to go with something a little bit safer, perhaps. The May Reaper DPS duo here is going to be the answer to Jai on this Sombra. He's in the backline, but already getting frozen up, already forced out, so they're already being very proactive about scouting out for the Sombra.
Yeah, well, they have quite a couple of heroes that can scout out for that Sombra, the May, the Moira, the Lucio, the Sigma as well, and they probably go for this May because May has just a little bit more stall potential on point. You can just block up and wall up and be a real pain to dislodge. Jay falling so low, they're gonna just commit to this engagement anyway.
Yeah, he tried to get the hack off, and he did get it onto Crazy Cat, but the kill wasn't quite there. They do get cohesion, though, and now Kashir chimes in with the double kill. Unfortunately, cohesion just dropped out of the game. He went AFK. They killed him immediately, and that could be trouble for Scion.
Yeah, that is a big unlucky. Maybe the Jay has actually found a way to be the real Sombra and hacking people out of the game. I'm sure that's an ability that a lot of Sombra mains are clamoring to have. You just log in, hack one person, then boom, they're instantly deleted from their account, Shagga. But it feels like that would be just a little bit unbalanced. But if you're Scion, you are now, unfortunately, on this point 5 versus 6.
You're not even 5v6. You lost Crazy Cat in that fight as well, so you're in a 64 pretty much for your life at this point as Inked swarm over the point. Kashir gets 3 at the end of the day. They'll get point A, and they'll have over a minute to push the cart barely any distance at all.
Yeah, and Scion are actually pulling back. They're doing quite an intelligent thing. They're letting their player come back into the fold so that then they're going to make this attack with the full 6 in their arsenal. But Inked have already set up quite aggressively, almost exactly where the payload needs to be. And so you do have to find the kills to be able to confirm this defense.
They do, but they've got the Coalescence and no ults online just yet. For Inked as they're getting ready to take this fight. It's realistically maybe 2 chances for Inked. They get fluxed up in the area, they commit the sound barrier, they want to take this fight, and now Supreme with that Coalescence is giving control over to Scion as they try to stop this payload just shy. The wall out from Cohesion, not finding anything just yet, just buying them some time to regroup, to get those shields back down, but he's fallen yet again. No AFK this time, just gets taken down straight up, and even the supercharger out from Scion is not really enough to find any kills at the moment there. They're trying their hardest to keep this going, but the Death Blossom just might end it.
The Death Blossom and the follow-up EMP, but it doesn't actually get Crazy Cat, who picks up 2 kills of his own. But I still don't think that's going to be enough to clinch in that defense, and it will be Inked tying us up 1 piece to both of these teams. And Shaiga, we have a match on our hands.
That we do. No 3-0s here tonight for either team. We definitely have a series here as Inked come out with a great response. We were questioning the Sombra earlier on in this series, but here on Hollywood, it works wonders for them. The EMPs were nice, but I'm more impressed with Inked's ability to win fights without EMP.
Yeah, it really is impressive because we've seen a lot of teams commit EMPs and then instantly just kind of whitewash the enemy team into complete submission just with that ability. But if you're a team who has EMP up, or who has the EMP coming up but can still find the kills without it, then you're already at such a huge advantage, because it means that you have that EMP to commit when the going gets tough, and say when the enemy decide to try and start pulling ultimates online. Like if you EMP before the Sigma actually pulls everyone up in the animation, you can cancel that ultimate entirely.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for outplay with that EMP. You can find, Lucio's mid-sound barrier. You can find a Moira breaking out the coalescence. You can cancel a lot of things. And if your timing is on point, then it's still a huge impact hero, as it really has always been. It's just finding the team comps that work around it. And right now, Inked is doing that so far. They find a nice win there on Hollywood to avoid going down 2-0, to avoid going to match point. So now the momentum swings back in the other direction. Scion on the back foot, but they'll get map pick.
Yeah, and they will indeed be picking us to Temple of Anubis. So perhaps we're going to be seeing this pharmacy coming out once more from them. You can play Pharah quite well on that point A attack, not so much the point B. It is a lot easier to see where the Pharah is coming from than when you're the defending team. But it does mean on the attack on point A that you can find these angles that perhaps other DPS just simply won't be able to find because you're not as mobile.
That's certainly true. Another thing you could see here on Anubis on the defense actually is that Bastion yet again. I don't necessarily expect it because it didn't work out great for Scion on that Hollywood defense. And if you know that Jai is playing the Sombra so much, I think you're probably better off trying to avoid those hard bunker compositions.
You're definitely trying to avoid being in those compositions where you're grouped together, because if you're grouped together, that means that you're at risk of being caught with maybe 4 or 5 people in that EMP radius. So what you do sort of want to do is maybe swap off of this Bastion indeed and go for something that counters the Sombra. We haven't seen it so much, indeed we haven't really seen it at all today, but McCree is indeed one of those heroes where you can just see the Sombra appear, wait for that hack to attempt to come off, and then you just flashbang and follow up with the right click.
No, it's very situational in that sense, and that you have to catch the Sombra out, and if they're quick enough, they're going to be translocating out before you can get that stun. But all it takes is one time to find an impact on that McCree. So definitely a pick that works here. Another potential counter if you're worried about the Pharah on the other side, something to kind of keep in mind there. So definitely could see some play here on Temple of Anubis, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Scion try to go back to that Doomfist Reaper. This to me is one of the better maps for the Doomfist, even with those nerfs. Still potentially a very powerful pick here.
But do you want to run this Doomfist and this Reaper into a Sombra like Jay, who was finding all of the value not just with these EMPs but also with these normal hacks? Because Reaper, like a Doomfist, can be essentially shut down by a capable Sombra. The Death Blossom cancelled out entirely just with the traditional right-click hack. The Ray Form, you have to sort of use it very selectively to get out of engagements, not so much to get in. So if you use it to cancel a hack, you are essentially a sitting duck, and the target will be painted on your back, especially with these communications that these teams have.
No, and I thought that was one of the things that Inked did really well in that last map, was when Jai was finding those individual hacks, they were collapsing on the target immediately. Even if it was not necessarily the easiest fight to take, they were trying to take advantage of those hacks coming in. So if they can continue to do that, Anubis is going to be, I think, a difficult map for Scion, an interesting choice to me to take us here. I think a very good Sombra map overall.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of these two DPSs at the moment. It's going to be who's going to come out on top. Is it going to be Jay on the Sombra, or is it going to be the collective wits of Cohesion and Crazy Cat on the Reaper? Because Sombra is just one player, and if she gets found out, you can crack down on her, especially if you can manage to find that translocator where it goes.
Oh. But Jai has been pretty solid on that so far, hasn't been getting caught out too much. And it is just going to be the Doomfist once again for Cohesion. He's been solid on it so far, but not finding the same impact necessarily that he could have in the previous patch. A huge play there PMA Jelly's going for the boop. They find him out. They get the hack, and they just delete him. It was a clever play there from the side of Scion, but it doesn't work out.
No, it does not indeed. And look at Jay already. 58% to this EMP, and that was just the first engagement with 2 members going down to Scion pretty early and making that fight very short as well.
That was a fantastic start for the defenders here, but they're still going to have one fight. If this one goes long, the EMP could be coming through. Cohesion tries to go in, gets hit by the accretion, and now just kind of taking the high ground, playing it patiently. Our Scion getting Crazy Cat up onto the high ground, looking for that translocator potentially.
And Supreme does have the Coalescence up. It's going to be popped immediately. Jade doesn't have the EMP up online. That won't be coming out to cancel it. But Fix has that Coalescence of his own and is probably going to be popped if they even need it, because they're just finding all of the kills at the moment.
No, I think they'll be more than happy to hang on to that one and reset here. A couple kills coming in from Crazy Cat could potentially be impactful. PMA Jellies needs to go down. They have an opening here, or they had an opening where Crawley would have been on the return from spawn, but now that's probably gone.
Yeah, and Strafology is actually going to go back to the spawn to ferry this Sigma back into this fight. So they do have they had an opportunity, but that window is now closed because the Sigma is back in, so it will be 6 versus 6.
Does get them through the choke point right now, but they've got a Coalescence waiting to greet them on the other side here, and a Flux gonna be committed, and it's going to be able to set the kill up onto Jay, or Cohesion does rather, with the rocket punch, and now an opportunity for Scion here that they haven't had just yet. They've gotten the supercharger out of the fight, and they are gonna be able to get the coin up.
Yeah, and that all happens because the Sombra is taken out of the fight early. Lovely claps on the side of Scion to make sure that the threat is eliminated as quickly as possible, because you have to feel that threat of the EMP hanging over your head. You don't really want to properly commit to the point, to the ultimates like the superchargers, which again will be cancelled by that EMP if you know that it is a possibility of happening. But it does mean, however, that Jay is going to have this EMP, and it's probably going to be popped as soon as Scion try to take this point B.
Yes, and there it is. It hits 4, and the collapse is there once again from Ink. They push forward, but they don't actually find too many kills off the back of it, just getting 2 for their troubles. But now Calman might have overstepped a little bit here, going to get punished for his positioning, and it's just Niche able to back off. Crazy Cat hiding in the wings and almost gets Chai.
Well, PMA Jellies has had enough of the Sombra running amok and now is actually going to swap to the Brigitte. Brigitte isn't really that powerful in meta at the moment, so surely they must be finding the value in the shield bashes for when the Sombra appears. Going to make those hacks so much harder to get off. Fix does have the Coalescence, and the superchargers are going down on the side of Nick, so that's probably going to be coming out quite soon.
Oh, the Death Blossom out from Crazy Cat in the back. It's all charged up. It finds 2. So an opening for Scion as they take control of the point right now. They get 1 tick. They're going to get a second, but is the stall going to be possible from Ink's Jai trying to buy some time, but comes out of the translocator, gets deleted instantly. There's 3 members here from the defenders trying to keep this going, and Kashir gets a Death Blossom of his own. They find 3 kills, and they'll turn this one around.
Well, they haven't quite turned it around just yet, because both of these two teams are showing that they still want to take this fight. But as I said, it is going to be Scion sensing that they've been defeated. Although Crazy Cat kind of go for a little bit of a crazy attack and just gets instantly sent back to spawn by Kashir.
All right, well, an excellent retake there from the 3-man squad of Crawley, Best Bulby, Kashir. They have the Death Blossom and the Supercharger ready to go. They time it well, and they find what they were looking for. They stay alive at 95.3%, just barely here on Anubis, but that's enough for them to keep this going defense a little while longer.
Yeah, but Jay is looking to build up this next EMP, 87%. It is nail-bitingly close, and it's going to be Scion taking the long approach to this point, just making sure that they're not taking too much damage as they come in for that approach.
Indeed they will, but Cohesion goes in for the slam, gets hacked just plainly, and there's no saving him at that point. The Coalescence not nearly enough for Scion at that point, and they still commit to the fight. They use the Coalescence, now responded by 1 from Fix, and the advantage here with Ink. Crazy Cat trying to change that though, gets the off the top rope with the Death Blossom, the the EMP committed as well for Inked. They will use their own Death Blossom and doing just enough to hold on here once again.
And once again, the thing that really swings it back in time for Ink to be able to pick up the eliminations that they need is that EMP coming out from Jay, who is still finding all of the value from it. Maybe not quite the normal hacks at the moment because he really is being punished as soon as he comes out of that stealth mode, but they're just not able to capitalize and cancel the Sombra's EMP.
But Inked have to give up some ground here. They lost their Orisa, no shield in this fight, or only one at this point, but the Supercharger out from both teams. The Coalescence is there from Supreme. All the Qs being pressed at this point by both teams, and no one finding the opening just yet, but Cohesion changes that in an instant. Best Bulby down, no main tank once again for Inked, but they're trying to keep this fight going. They're caught by that halt and they're dealt with immediately. PMA Jelly's now on the point with the Ita is just winging that flail around, keeping everyone zoned off the point. It's just the Wrecking Ball from Best Bulby, and how long can he last?
Well, it's not just the Wrecking Ball any longer. He's joined by a Lucio and a Reaper, but they are going to fall shortly after.
Ooh, and no one else able to get there. The D.Va punched back at the very end. And Scion able to finish things out here on Temple of Anubis. They finished the map with less than a minute to go, but still time remaining. So they're guaranteed an extra attack if it comes to that. But it is a little bit slow for them there on point B.
It was very dicey, especially towards the end. They managed to clinch point A pretty quickly in terms of Temple of Anubis time bank, but then that point B proved just a little bit trickier, and where they really ran foul of what Inked were running was the Sombra pick. They seem to have tried to swap off a couple of people. We saw PMA Jellies go off that Lucio and onto the Brigida, but they still didn't quite manage to be able to lock G down in time to stop those EMPs, those really heavy, powerful ultimates from coming out in time to bail out his team.
And now the EMP is going to be there on the attacking side for Inked once again, where they might be even more powerful, because if you can find 2 clean EMP engages here on your attack round of Anubis, that might be all you need.
That might be exactly all you need, especially when you've got the Orisa to just try and halt them all in to make sure that so many of those enemies get just caught in the blast. We're going to have Cohesion actually swapping off the Doomfist, going to be going onto the Mei. It worked out for them pretty well in the beginning of that Hollywood defense, so they're definitely trying to lock this Sombra down. Whether it's going to be successful or not is really the question that's going to determine who comes out of this map the victor.
Indeed, it will. But an interesting, oh no, not an interesting pick. Fix going back over to the Moira, the standard on the field for Inked here. Best Bulby already going very low, in a bit of trouble as he's walled off. Will back off with the Fortify, but already having to use cooldowns, already losing some time as they finally make their way in through the choke.
Yeah, but Jay managed to get the hack onto Crazy Cat, and so the team will be looking to capitalize on that one, but the Reaper does manage to fall back into his team. It's going to be a little bit of a poking battle right now as both of these teams try to build up ultimates faster than the other.
Yes, and right now Inked's kind of just waiting for Jai to get in position for an early hack. It's not going to happen there as Scion turn around. They deal with the Sombra. Now the Reaper off the high ground as well. They've got the advantage in the frontline fight. They're going to use the Coalescence to push forward. They take down Fix at the cost of Cohesion, and they've got Inked grouped up in this small room over here. A very difficult fight for both sides in these close quarters, but so far, a buying time at the very least for Scion.
Yeah, and Inked, if they lose a person, especially one of those really major supports that they most definitely need to keep up at all costs, you would expect them to just disengage gracefully, but they're still grouped up in this room, and Scion are definitely going to be looking to capitalize on this, especially with the Mei now returning.
But now everybody's back in the fight and ready to go, so another opportunity for Inked to push forward. They're going to open up with the Flux and the Coalescence. They find Niche with that ultimate, and now the opportunity to push forward for Inked is there. They're trying to keep Best Bulby safe, but that Blizzard could be trouble. The Death Blossom on top of it. It's a winter wonderland Kashyr, and he finds two. The EMP committed by Jai just to close out this fight.
Perhaps a little bit unnecessary, though. You didn't really need to commit that ultimate to confirm you the kills. You had the advantage in numbers. Your spawn is closer than the defenders, and that means that you're not going to have the EMP up to try and win you this next engagement. And if you do want to try and take Temple of Anubis Point B, you do have to absolutely curb stomp the defenders. And PMA Jellies has the sign right. He's been able to avoid so many of these EMPs that have come out from Jay. Is he going to be holding on to it, or is he going to be committing it for when Best Bobby puts down those supercharges to negate the damage coming through on his team?
Jay already putting some pressure on the point, almost gets a kick out of that, but eventually forced away, and Inked resetting, waiting for an opportunity to go in here. They've got the Coalescence online. They've got the supercharger as well, so they'll have some tools, but look at everything that Scion has. This defense very stout at the moment.
Yeah, you need the EMP to open this up. In a dream world, you manage to get Jay to get that EMP online, and you just cancel out all of the ultimates that are available for Scion. But it's not going to be a dream world, and the ultimates are coming out on the Scion with nothing from Ink to be able to stop them.
Well, I like their restraint there to not use any ults in response. They get the Coalescence out, nothing used there until Fix unleashes his own. Jai going down simultaneously, and that's not what you want out of that. They get the kill on the Cohesion, but they're still down there. They're the engine of their composition. Jai not building up to that next EMP.
They showed so much restraint until that Moira started popping Coalescence, just a little bit too slow to save the Sombra, but ultimates will now be committed without any sort of restraint on both these two team sides.
As the sound barrier is keeping everyone healthy for the time being, but Jai again gonna be the first to fall here, and Scion easily take this fight. Cohesion doing work on the Doomfist yet again, and this is where that hero really comes into his own. So many angles and opportunities on point B of Anubis.
So many lanes, so many corners that you have to be constantly looking around your back, constantly watching, because that Doomfist really can drop from anywhere and any place, and Jay is struggling to get this EMP up. It's been the backbone of what his team has sort of tried to begin fights and initiate point takes, and it really has won them this, but they're struggling to get it online once more. They do have more ultimates though, not just that one that they're trying to wait in the wings for. They're going to come for the same approach that Scion tried to take, the supercharged point down and the Coalescence to boot.
Yeah, and Kashyr has the Death Blossom ready to go, is now in the back line, spin into winning, and that is gonna find one. Supreme goes down, and everybody falling on the side of Scion, just trying to get back here for a bit of stall is PMA Jellies. The Hammond out as well, but hacked up, the EMP out for good measure, and no one able to touch the point, stop it ticking up. Inked, finish the match.
I mean, it was a sort of silver lining that Jay wasn't able to get that EMP up in time for that push onto point B, because it means that you have it in your pocket to pull out for when that point contest comes through from Scion, which ensures that you're not going to have to deal with 1 minute being burnt off your clock because you can't pin down a pesky Hammond that's rolling all over the place, Shy Guy. They're so irritating and frustrating to lock down, but it will be a pretty good time set by Inked, 2 minutes 32, as opposed to Sion's 1 minute, because they managed to take that point, but only in overtime.
That attack to me comes off as very methodical from Inked. They know their win conditions with this composition, and it revolves around that EMP. But in that final fight, they're able to get value outside of the EMP. That's what really takes it to another level here on Anubis, allows them to finish out the map so cleanly. Pretty much no stall coming through from Scion. So now, if you're Scion, you've got a minute to work with. You've got to come up with an answer on this attack.
And you have to come up with it so quickly. 1 minute really does mean that you have so little time to build up these ultimates. Maybe we're going to be seeing the Mara. We are indeed Supreme, probably going to be able to get a Coalescence up in that time, but Fix as well is going to be building that ultimate like a madman, especially with that damage orb coming through at just a little bit, already 9% to the ultimate. But Supreme almost lapping these two Moiras completely in sync, both at the same ultimate charge.
They are building up so quickly right now, are both of those Moiras, but Scion, they want to take this fight quickly. They know they've got an advantage in the neutral while the Sombra is out of fight, but Jai gets the hack onto Niche, so the main tank not able to throw down that shield, no Fortify available either, and now that halt sets up an opportunity for Inktier. Cohesion gets up on the high ground. Jay willing to take the duel, but loses out to the Doomfist just barely. He goes off for a health pack, but the rest of Scion looking to finish the deal here. They swarm onto the point with the Coalescence, and now they will get point A. What can they do on point B, though?
It's almost as if Scion have this sort of brand new surge of confidence as soon as they know that Jay is out of the picture. They don't have any ultimates to try and throw themselves at a point B, but they are going to have a little bit of time to try and get one ultimate, perhaps this Flux online for Cowman. He is quickly approaching this, and Strafe is quite a way away from his Scion barrier, so maybe you can get a couple of picks, start swinging it in your favor, and pick up a little bit of point percentage.
But now Scion having to push into this Coalescence. They're just going to back off and regroup here. It's going to come down to the wire as they let that Moira ult fade. Fix going very low, but the EMP in from Jai sets up Scion for defeat. And now the Death Blossom for Kashir will finish it off. Inked able to hold firm on point B.
They managed to hold so much better on that point B than they do on point A, and it's almost as if this is two separate teams that we're seeing, Shy Guy, on these 2 points of defense. They seem to kind of fall apart around this point A, and then rally together and start finding the answers to what Scion are throwing at them on that point B.
Well, I think it's less two different teams and one team that has an EMP and one team that didn't. So, Inked, when they have Jai ready with that ultimate, they're able to shut down the defense. It was always going to be tough there for Scion. But I think they're happy with that attack round. Getting point A, it gives you a chance to win this map. It gives you a very good possibility of coming away with the draw.
Well, once again, there's going to be a sort of echo in the room because it's going to be Jay on this Sombra, and it is going to be a sort of tale of these two Sombras that we've discussed. Is he going to be able to build the EMP in time? He has 2 minutes 32, but we saw that he struggled to manage to build one up in the same sort of time bank on Hollywood. Is he going to suffer the same problem, or is he going to be able to get it up in one of those insane sprints to an ultimate that we see some Sombras really manage to pull off?
That will be the question here, and the other thing is, can Inked really find anything in the fights where that EMP isn't online? They've done a great job of it so far in this series. They broke up in point A last time without really needing to use the EMP, and now they'll need an offense like that if they want to be able to roll into point B with momentum.
Yeah, they have to find an answer and an opening, but that Maywall is going to make it so much harder for all of them to get into that side room safely. They do, however, manage it, and you know that wall is now on cooldown, so you start pressing in immediately, but no, they're actually going to wait around. It's a little bit of a bait. They got juked, and now they're all just going to rush for this point.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. And Kashir in position to ambush them a little bit, will be forced to fall back. That wall almost catches him out there. And now the brawl taking place on point. The Coalescence from Fix is going to be the difference maker. He takes down his opposite number, and Inked are setting themselves up for success.
I mean, that was an absolute 5,000 IQ play. Convince the enemy that you're going one way, and then just turn tail and sprint to that point and watch as the defense crumbles in a panic as they suddenly can't see where you're going, and they only realize the plan a little bit too late. Supreme does have this Coalescence to try and keep his team up and alive for when Ink try and take this point B, but they have 1 minute 45 in the clock, which is more than enough time for Jay to manage to build up this last remaining percentage on his ultimate.
Patience is the name of the game here for Inked. If you can build up to that EMP, build up to these other ultimates, you've got a very good shot of taking Anubis, going up 2-0 2-1 in this series. But they're gonna have to deal with this Coalescence. Supreme pushing forward, gets 2 at the end of it, and that's gonna be a successful first defense, but many more to go.
But they managed to pull the Coalescence from the Moira. They really need to pull the Scion barrier from the Lucio, but it isn't up and available for the kind of pressure the Lucio into dropping that one in. But the coalescence from the Mora is just one of the steps that Inked really needed to try and solidify this claim to point B on Anubis, because it takes away one of these support defensive ultimates. Now Jay has got this EMP up. He's surely going to be looking for PMA jellies, but it's going to be Crazy Cat and Cowman who are going to be looking to throw a little bit of a wrench in Inked's plans. They have this combination of the Sigma Flux and then follow up with this Reaper Death Blossom, but the EMP does manage to catch free.
Yes, and they immediately deal with Cowman. Now the Death Blossom's committed on both sides. Kashir finding a little bit more backed up by that EMP, and now an opening for the side of Ink. They only get 2 kills, so an opportunity for stall, especially with this Coalescence. The Flux out as well from Cowman. The Blizzard committed by Cohesion. This is an opportunity for Scion to keep this going, and they're going to be able to do it.
They're gonna be able to do it. They managed to weather the storm of the EMP, and it's gonna be a Lucio just trying to hold on for as long as he can. James, the Sombra, manages to get on and start a contesting claim, but it's just not gonna be enough as Scion managed to just overtake all of the side of Inked, and they will be... It's actually just a draw! It's just straight up a draw. Both of these two teams not able to pick up that percentage that they need to clinch this map for either of them.
We come away from 2CP with no changes in our scoreline here, still 1-1, which means we're in for a little bit more Overwatch here tonight. I'm not complaining, but now we'll continue on with the rest of the series as if this never happened.
Well, we're definitely not going to sweep it under the rug, though, because there was some stellar play from both of those two teams. I think that that approach on the second round of Anubis from Inked is going to be going down as one of my favorite takes of Anubis point A, one which I'm going to be trying to replicate in my matches, but I don't think it will be to the same effect as these guys managed to pull off.
No, I can never get people to follow me quite like that. That was a very impressive take from Scion, and it does just enough to give them the tie here on Anubis. So now we continue on in this series, and now it's hard to say where the momentum lies in this series. You know, that I think Scion are probably coming away feeling quite good about Anubis. They get the closing defense there to keep Inked off the board, and now they get to reset a little bit.
Not only that, but we saw Inked lose a fight when EMP was thrown in, and that just simply hadn't happened before. So now if you're Scion, you sort of again have this sort of boost of confidence, the same that you had when Jay was taken out of the fight early by Cohesion, and you start thinking that, okay, the Sombra, yes, a problem is going to be a constant in your backline and harassing your supports or your tanks, but you found a way to make sure that she doesn't have as high an impact as she wants to have. Absolutely.
And Scion, I think, doing a good job in that map, perhaps of kind of adapting to the Sombra. The reason that EMP on the final point only hits 3, they're ready for it. They are spread out. They are in position to kind of minimize the impact of that ultimate. They do exactly that. They stem the bleeding. They're able to back off just a little bit in that point, re-engage with ultimates, and they play it to perfection on the defense. So very well done by Scion, kind of learning a little bit over the course of the series how to stay out of Jai's line of sight when he's coming in with that EMP.
Yeah, and if you're Inked, you're thrown into a sort of disarray because of this. Because maybe you haven't constructed your composition and your attacks and defenses wholly around the EMP, because we have seen them win team fights and defenses and attacks without it, but you've most definitely lent on it as a sort of crutch to see you through, as a sort of panic button. Well, okay, maybe we lost this fight, but now we have EMP and we'll win this one. So do you swap Jay off the Sombra now that you know that they're having a little bit of a lesser impact? Or do you keep running with this and hope that you can forge through and find the value that you have been previously?
I think that I don't know what is the right call here for Inked, because I don't know exactly what kind of other compositions they have. So far, the Sombra has been what has gotten them their one win. And now, in this series so far. It tied them there on Temple of Anubis. So I think it's been a pretty good look for them. But I think the answer comes here on Lijiang Tower. We'll find out if this is going to be hard and fast, if they are really committed to the Sombra. It'll be an interesting look here on Night Market. It's definitely a viable option.
Well, on the other side of the spectrum, we can most definitely expect to see Cohesion committing onto this Pharah. So much open skies. You really do get to kind of have a sense of aerial superiority if the enemy team aren't running anything that can immediately take your head off. They have tried to deal with this pharmacy composition with Jade being on that Sombra before, trying to just find the high ground, being able to reach the Pharah with those normal hacks. But it's a little bit harder to get the lockdown onto the Pharah on this map.
It definitely is, and the Pharah is an interesting pick here because it can at times kind of take you out of the fight if you're playing that, especially if you go for the rotation around the backside of the point. It's a bit of a gamble, and not one that we've seen either team really lean on so far in this series.
It's not one that Scion want to commit to. They're going to have Cohesion running on the Mei once again.
Okay, this seems to be the way they want to approach this Sombra matchup for the most part. The freeze effect, the primary fire from the Mei can be effective there, but they lose Niche early on into the entry. Jai getting in the back and dealing with the Orisa, so an easy first fight for Ink.
Yeah, and all of Ink's ultimate meters just absolutely rocketing up. Jay 50% to his first EMP, and Fix gonna be closer to the Coalescence than Supreme, who actually goes down with the 40%, not even halfway across that ultimate meter on the side of that Moira. And so you're gonna have a little bit of a disadvantage as you come in to try and take this point away from Ink, but the opener onto the Orisa means that you have so much more of an advantage now.
Yeah, they got 2 picks off the tail into that fight, and Scion able to just turn that into an easy team fight win of their own. Crazy Cat just surging over everybody, laying in that damage, and Fix can't get back into the fight quick enough.
Yeah, and now the ultimates meters, they're just a little bit more balanced. Both of these Moiras have their Coalescences up and ready to commit if the going gets tough enough. It's probably going to be Fix trying to just pop that one to let his team get through that choke. Can be quite a painful one, but Jay actually goes a little bit too aggressive and gets picked off early by Supreme, and so this is just going to be a collapse on the side of Scion, who are looking for anyone on the side of Ink who might be loitering around this area to be caught out upon, but they're not. They're actually going to have taken this high ground approach, so no picks of that one.
Yes, but getting Jai early means that EMP couldn't come out, but now it does. The Coalescence to follow it up, and Ink able to immediately turn that into 2 kills here. They're trying to take this fight quickly. They want to get the recapture, and they're going to be able to do it. Kashir playing the cleanup crew here.
Once again, this is EMP for Ink proving to be what really kind of spins them into this kind of over enthusiastic approaches where they finally stop kind of loitering around the point and properly committing to it. They are going to have ultimates. You see Kashir ready and waiting to drop down. Going to commit the Death Blossom and picks up 3 with it.
And that is a team fight done in the blink of an eye there. Kashir just eliminates all of Scion as they try to push in. They don't even get an opportunity to use the ultimates of their own. That's exactly what you want as the defense.
Yeah, but you are, as the aggressors, gonna be coming into this with 4 ultimates quickly to be 5 when that Moira gets that Coalescence up and online. So it is up to Strafe to keep the sound barrier for when the threat comes in.
The Flux buys some time here for Inked, and they even turn it into a kill onto Niche there, and they're trying to stay in this fight, but Crazy Cat has other ideas, taking down 2 with the Death Blossom. This is an all-out brawl on the point, but it's just Kashir finding his way back into the fight at the late stages. Jai's still in here to buy some time, and the DPS doing a little bit of a dance right now to build up just a few extra percentage points.
and allows for the Lucio to get back into the action. Jay still not letting this point get flipped. Finally, the flip comes through, but Jay does have this 97% to the EMP, and so this is surely what is going to be the initiation, the go sign for Inked as they come in for this approach. 87% on the board, so it is closing up to that last fight territory.
If they can do this well, then they can end it right here and now. The EMP not finding many, only PMA Jelly's getting hit by that. So still an opportunity for Scion to keep this going. They drop the supercharger, and they are more than capable of sticking it out.
And once again, we see that Scion have actually managed to weather the storm of this EMP. And now if you're Inked, you threw in everything that you had in that bank to that engagement, thinking that you would be able to win it with that EMP on your side. And now you were left in a very grim situation where it's 93% on the board for your enemies, and you don't have a single ultimate to begin to try and come in with this approach. Although the Orisa superchargers are going to come in just in the nick of time.
It will be dropped down, and Kashir already finding his opposite number will pay his life for that one, but the Coalescence fix now beefed up by that supercharger is giving them an opportunity to push forward. They forced Scion off the point into this back corner, and that accretion should deliver the kill on the PMA Jelly's not happening. He escapes, he gets the sound barrier off, and now Scion looking to close this out. They get the flux from Cowman, Cohesion going mad on the Doomfist, and they will take Night Market.
And this is when we start to see that this reliance on the EMP on the side of Inked is simply just not enough for them to win these engagements anymore. Scion have adapted. They know when the Sombra is roughly going to be trying to put in those EMPs, and so they scatter and make sure that they either don't get hit, or the ones that do have enough backup from the rest of the team that they just can't get swarmed. And we're going to see it's Gardens. So this is not unfamiliar territory. Cohesion swapping on to this Pharaoh with PMA Jelly's going to be that Mercy pocket to back him up in the sky.
All right. I would like to see Inked, as they continue on with the Sombra, be a little bit more patient with those EMP engages, and hold your horses. Is that dive?
It is indeed, Shy Guy. We have been treated to the beauty that is the traditional dive with this Winston Diva and Tracer. Gonna be with a Farah in the sky as a little bit of a crossfire, but it's gonna be Nitch who actually gets hacked out, falls very low, but is gonna be backed up. It's the Mora who goes down first.
Okay, now we're seeing a bit why the dive maybe not in vogue. No shield able to save Supreme there, but the res still comes through mid-fight. Cohesion gets taken down by Giant. That one's not coming back. Inked have the man advantage on the point. They've got these two shield tanks controlling the space, and they're slowly but surely grinding down this fight. Nitch trying to keep it going, trying to play his role here and buy them some time. The pulse bomb in from Crazy Cat just got a buff, and now taking down two onto Best Bulby, Straightology as well, and now the dive working out.
Yeah, dive working out wonders for Scion, who managed to set up with this point with the first percentage going their way. They do put in a couple of ultimates to make sure that they capture it, which means that Inked do have a couple of their own to try and get the flip coming, especially this EMP, which is probably going to be put in as that sort of engagement. You know that the Coalescence is actually gone, but the EMP only catches two. Absolute disaster.
And the Valkyrie was already out from PMA Jelly, so barely doing anything to the Mercy there. Kashir still finding an opportunity, unleashes the Death Blossom, and will be able to make this fight go in the direction of Inked. The engagement was a little bit sloppy, but they make it work.
I mean, you say sloppy, I say unnecessary sign barrier committed, Shy Guy. Strafe perhaps pops that one because he's a little bit worried that Kashir isn't going to be able to come out of the Death Blossom so close to the Doomfist alive without it getting cancelled out or him just thrown into the wall. But it does mean that they're not going to have it up and available for when the commitment comes in from Scion.
And it's coming in now, and it's not going very well. The Gravitic Flux lifts them all up, slams them all down. The tanks are dealt with, and that's an easy repelling of Scion there for Inked.
Yeah, but they don't manage to get the stagger onto the Lucio, and Fix is actually going quite aggressively. Not gonna be punished for it. The crazy cat on the Tracer does indeed look for that one, but not gonna be able to clinch it. Does have a Pulse Bomb, has managed to pick up two with the one before, so surely looking for much of the same.
The self-destruct over the top does clear some space for Scion to push in here. They've traded out the Lucio for the Orisa. Probably favorable considering the runbacks, and Cohesion finds a pick with his Meteor Strike. They're able to take control at this point. The Pulse Bomb once again committed from Crazy Cat, but Fix keeping this one going somehow. The Coalescence committed, and Ink's not ready to give this up.
Definitely not ready at all. There is a hamster on the field just to try and get these contests the numbers advantage. So maybe we're going to see, yes, he's returning to the spawn ship now, so we'll be coming back on the Orisa, and they do have an EMP to situate themselves just a little bit more comfortably on this point. Nitch has the primal, so maybe you use that as a reaction. Make sure that the Winston isn't as free as he usually is to rain those fists upon your teammates.
Or you can get proactive here as Scion push across the bridge. The EMP hits 3, including Nitch. The Primal Rage goes absolutely nowhere. And Kashir now, the cleanup crew for Inked, is they just will have to deal with some staggers here. Only Cohesion on the point, trying to keep it going. Nitch back on the Wrecking Ball is giving them a shot alongside this Coalescence, but they've got to find kills, and they're just not coming right now.
Inked managed to win the team fights with very little ultimates, which means that they have so many to just be able to pull from when that contest comes through. And unfortunately, Scion, they committed so many things, but they just weren't able to clinch out the eliminations that they needed. And it will be Inked who take the second map of Lijiang. And once again, it's so close between these two teams. We're tied up.
This is phenomenal right now. This series has been everything I hoped for and more. These two teams have been so good throughout this event so far, and now they're going toe to toe. This clash of styles has been fascinating with Jai on the Sombra throughout the night, and they look to be continuing it here, even on Control Center. He's on the Symmetra right now for the teleporter, but I don't think they want to change anything up really.
No, and control points, they are quite easy to be able to make sure that people are hit by that EMP, because you do have to remember that that point has to be contested. There has to be the enemy standing on it for flips to come through, so you are almost guaranteed to catch people in that radius.
And now Jai finally going to give up the Sombra. Doesn't like it as a matchup here on Control Center. Once the front line Reaper here as the mirror match comes in. Right now, the position on the point going over to Inked, but they lose their main tank. They lose Kashir to the freeze, and now Scion are going to be able to get first control.
Yeah, and it's looking drastically difficult for Inked to find any sort of pick, with Jay having swapped off the Sombra and actually onto this Reaper. So maybe this is why they're having so much difficulty in that first engagement. There's no shackling or fettering of Sion's abilities. They've got them all up and available.
And Scion seem to be a little bit more comfortable with this matchup right now. The rotation coming in on the high ground, but the wall is there to greet Inked, and now they're pushing forward. Ground will be given as they move through the server room.
Yeah, and both of these Moras do have these coalescences up, but the clincher is going to be Cohesion, so much closer to his ultimate than Kashir is.
Oh, and it's another fake there from Ink. They wrap around the backside yet again, but Kashir going down early is not the start that they were looking for. Trying to keep this going with the coalescences dueling at this point. Neither team really willing to give up on this fight, but no one finding any kills just yet. That might be changing right now as Scion pushing forward. They get the gravitic flux from Cowman, and they will once again gain control.
Did you need to throw in that ultimate? You can see that the enemy team are already in the sort of panic mode and trying to rush back into their ship. So you've been already guaranteed this fight win, and it means that the flux isn't going to be a resource that you can pull from in this next engagement. However, if you're Scion, I don't think you're too worried, because you do have the other 5 ultimates coming online now. Kashir is probably just going to try and open up for his team with this Blizzard, and Fix just popping the Coalescence is probably going to be trying to heal them up. That is a very early Maywell and doesn't really separate anyone.
No, not at all. And now the Blizzard's committed on both sides. Neither they're really finding anything at the moment, but the kill is still there for Scion as Crazy Cat gets in the back line with the Death Blossom. The teleport perfectly timed there, and Scion It was looking a little shaky here on Lijiang. They lost the last map, but they close it out convincingly on Control Center. They take the win on Lijiang, and now they find themselves on match point.
And there seems to be this absolutely huge difference in how Inked play when their DPS are on different heroes. We see almost a completely different approach to how these engagements are gonna happen. It's less methodical and a lot more kind of panicking and not really sure of how exactly to engage. They seem to have the sort of right idea on the approaches. Where it all falls apart is when they're trying to look for those initial picks to open things up, because Scion has been getting those almost every single time.
No, and I think that last point was really just a case of kind of a comfort pick there for Scion. Getting the mirror match there is exactly what they want right now. I don't think they want to see Jai on the Sombra, because that's where Inked are finding their success right now. So it's going to be interesting as we head into map 4 here. Scion or Inked going to be in control of the map pick, so can they take us somewhere that Sombra can really thrive?
Well, Jay seems to be the sort of figurehead in the sort of way that you see a lot of main tanks be for their teams, whereupon when the hack comes through, not just the EMP, it's sort of this kind of lighthouse through the fog for the entire team, and they know the target that they should collapse onto. And you take away that lighthouse, that fog is just so thick and so dense that there's not really any proper commitment onto the same sort of targets, and Ink just can't capitalize on the singular targets, and Scion just managed to sweep the map from out of their feet because of it.
Definitely true here, and we are waiting. Oh, we're not waiting on map picks. We're going to be headed to Dorado.
For home of the Sombra, actually.
I was going to say we're headed to Dorado for map number 4, but in reality, this is map number 5.
It is indeed map number 5. I was like, has Anubis been so insignificant to you? You said that we wouldn't forget about it, and you just did exactly.
I did. Yeah. I don't know. It happens sometimes. There's a lot of Overwatch going on here. Things are getting hectic and coming down to the wire in this series. Both these teams fighting for their lives in this tournament, although not done yet. If they do lose this series, they'll be down to the lower bracket, but you definitely want to avoid that fate. We've got a spot in the semifinals, the winners bracket final, whatever you want to call it, on the line here tonight. So a win here goes a long way to making sure it guarantees you first, second, or third in this tournament.
I mean, no one wants to go down to the losers bracket after you've stomped the competition 3-0 so far.
No, these teams definitely fighting for the win. They don't want to give up, and Inked still with plenty of time to make a comeback here. If they can get the win on Dorado, it's a decisive map 6 to decide it all, but I don't want to get ahead of myself here. It's going to be fascinating as we head into Dorado. The teams are readying up, and I think we're good to go.
What's going to be fascinating for me is to see whether or not Inks are going to be stopping this experiment with Jay on this Reaper and returning him onto this pick that we've seen him on for so much of this series on that Sombra.
I think we know where we're headed here for Inked. Jai definitely favoring the Sombra, and I think Dorado, a quite strong map for it, a lot of high ground that you can utilize with that translocator, a lot of opportunities for mobility, both on the first and second points especially. But it's going to be fascinating. They've got a choice here as we go into Dorado.
I mean, we saw a little bit of dive coming out on Lijiang Garden. So maybe we're going to be seeing, not at the beginning, but perhaps in that streets phase of point B, this reversion to dive, the Winston and the Diva coming out. Once again, I know I'll be happy to see it if it becomes a reality. And Shy Guy, I'm sure you'd be much of the same.
It would be, but I'm questioning how much we'll get to see it here, especially since it didn't go so well last time. For Cohesion, they weren't able to make the dive work for them, and I don't expect to see it, at least here on point A of Dorado. It's going to be the Orisa Sigmas on both sides, And once again, Jai back on the Sombra, going to be looking for opportunities to get in the back, find those hacks.
We're going to be looking for the singular targets to just be able to crack down upon, and Cohesion on this May, a little bit separated from the team, is going to be one ideal target. Prime for the picking, but the pick onto the Lucio is definitely going to cause Inked to have second thoughts about that one.
Ooh, the ice pick lobotomy there from Cohesion as he gets the first pick off and forces Inked back a little bit here. They can't push forward at the moment, and now Best will be getting isolated here by the wall. They get right on top of him, and they're keeping this first pick going there. They're continuing to keep the advantage on their side.
Well, apparently no one gave the DPS on the side of Ink the memo that there was a group-wide disengagement, because both the Reaper and the Sombra are dancing around where they perhaps shouldn't be when the team are heading back to the spawn, and it means that Supreme has been able to build up this coalescence much faster than Fix, and that's going to be the opener for this defensive team as indeed this payload gets closer to this first corner.
Yeah, but Fix is going to be able to build up to his coalescence as well to match that of Supreme, so an opportunity here, especially now as they're pushing through this choke point. They've got the payload where they want, now rotating up through the high ground to take a better fight, but the wall splits Fix off from the rest of the team, and that's easy pickings for Inked as they surge forward.
And you put your coalescence in as well. That's an ultimate that you're not going to get back for just a little bit. Morris can build that ultimates up pretty quickly. However, when you have 2 minutes 19 in the clock to try and get this payload as far as you can into point A, those ultimates, when you lose out on them, you really do feel them in the long run. But Jay has been building up to this EMP slowly but steadily, been a little bit quieter this round on the Sombra, but he's getting there, and it's definitely going to be really the go sign that we've seen Inked use it as so far in this series.
Ooh, and now Inked losing Kashir early on in that fight. He and Jai were trying to go for an early pick onto a hacked Crazy Cat, get punished for their forward positioning here, so more time continuing to be bled off by Scion eSports as they reset once again for this defense.
Well, Jai has the EMP, PMA Jellies has the Sombra. We've seen these two clash over their ultimates before. Have to make sure that the Lucio is caught out, and he's looking.
And now with the Blizzard out from Cohesion, the EMP committed late there, and Scion getting this turned back around on them as Inked surging forward. Kashir having the kill, finding the kills there, and now the Flux going to be committed. The sound barrier just a second too late to save Kashir, but the Flux from Crawley might just do a little bit more.
Yeah, and you do have the Arista supercharge to fall back onto if you feel the need, but with the amount of kills that they just collected, I don't think that one's going to be thrown in to the engagement anytime soon, and it will be Inked managing to pick up point A, and that's 3 minutes 16 now in the clock timer for them.
That's exactly what they were looking for there on Dorado. They get to keep the momentum going now. They'll have Fix ready to go with this coalescence, so an opportunity matching ultimates on both sides to keep this payload going. Kashir on the high ground, ready to drop in from the top rope as soon as that supercharger comes out. The timing just a little bit off there, but still the kills in for the side of Ink.
Yeah, they are managing to find them. They put in ultimates to make sure that they did, but in the long run, they're most definitely going to be happy that they managed to get that payload to keep on moving, because the aim of the game is to buy this Sombra enough time to build up another EMP and then win the next team fight off that alone, and have then had enough time to build back up the ultimates that you had to put in that previous engagement. But if you are Scion, you do have your ultimates now that you didn't get to use, and that last one, the superchargers, are going to be the first to come out as they try and commit to this payload.
And that's just going to signal the retreat here for Ink. Jai eventually getting caught out there, had to translocate away, and Cohesion finds him afterwards. So the chance for the defenders to regain a bit of control here to buy themselves some time.
Yeah, the disengagement just isn't quite as clean as Inked probably wanted it to be, and some of them do get caught out. They don't pull all the way back to spawn, and it will be Scion managing to capitalize on that. They basically won that engagement off the threat, the fear of having those superchargers down. Even managed to pick up a couple of kills, which has let them net a couple more ultimates into the bank. And now they just kind of get to pick and mix how exactly they decide to try and hold on to this payload. But Jay is going to be looking to get this EMP off once again. Goes into the back, finally manages to catch out the Lucio.
Yes, PMA Jelly sticking his head out just a little bit too far, and that's going to spell disaster for Scion as they just get cleaned up here. The May trying to buy some time on the cart could open the door for a recontest, but I don't think it's going to happen. The EMP more than enough for Ink to finish off point B.
Yeah, that closing point of point B is just so open that there's very little area that the defenders can kind of stand to try and avoid that line of sight, especially if you're trying to contest the payload. But they will most definitely be making a play at contesting now, especially with both the Coalescence and the Flex being thrown in.
Yes, but the sound barrier from Strafology keeps them going, and now the turnaround is here for Scion. They get frozen up, though. The Blizzard committed, and that's going to be yet another defense for Scion as they regain, for Scion as they regain control.
Yeah, but Jay has been building up once again to this EMP. He seems to have completely adapted to how exactly he builds this ultimate up, and he has suddenly just kind of gone into this breakneck speed of getting these online. But it's going to be this Orisa Sigma, Orisa Supercharger, and Moira Coalescence that Inked have to play around with to try and get themselves towards this payload. PMA Jellies is sitting on this Scion barrier, but Jai getting closer and closer to that EMP. Maybe you just hold on to it in the hopes that you'll be able to catch that one out.
Yeah, I think you want to try to win this fight without the EMP, and they're off to a good start. The double kill coming from the Coalescence and the Supercharger has forced Scion back a little bit. They answer on to Strafology, so a wrench thrown into the plans of Inked here. They now have the EMP ready to go, but will they commit it to this fight? It doesn't look likely as the Death Blossom comes in. The Coalescence as well from Supreme is giving Scion a chance, but they get right into that EMP. 5-min hit by it, and the turnaround is there from Inked. Scrappy fight, but Crazy Cat trying to keep this going for Scion.
Inked is showing themselves to be the masters of juking teams out, thinking that they're disengaging and then suddenly just pulling all the way back into it. But they lose towards the tail end of that fight. They lose the members that they had. They committed the EMP onto that, but they just don't manage to clean up the kills that they needed, and so they don't get control of that payload. And now PMA Jellies went down, wasn't able to get the Scion barrier online because he was actually EMP'd and caught in the radius. Means that there's so much sustain on the side of the defense that's just not up and online for the attackers.
And the Supercharger buys a little bit of time, eventually goes down to fix his Coalescence, but really not many tools remaining for the side of Inked as they push in here. They need to get up to this Gravitic Flux from Crawley, but it's going to be Cowman to start it off. The Blizzard, the Sound Bear, so many tools here for Scion as they close out this defense there. They're finding the kills. They're collapsing onto the last few members of Inked, and that's where the payload will stop.
Yeah, Kasha tries to get the sort of hero play, but he's going to fall at the final hurdle, unable to get that Death Blossom up, and it's going to be Jai going for a little bit of a contest. You do have to remember that Sombra now in stealth mode does not actually contest those payloads, so you do have to kind of uncloak and reveal yourself to the enemy team, which leaves you extremely vulnerable. And it will be Inked managing to pick up 2, but only the 2.
Only the 2. So that means Scion now with a chance to end this series here and now. If they can, push that payload a little bit further here on Dorado, this series will be theirs, and they don't even have to finish the map. They came away with a very strong point C defense. So if they can get through point B here on Dorado, they'll have set themselves up for great success.
The challenge is indeed going to be keeping a hold of point B, especially with Jai probably going to be on the Sombra. Those EMPs, you really do get caught out on that street space because the space is just so open. And if you want to keep contesting that payload and pressuring the attackers, you really do have to be sort of either on the main road or on the high ground, but clustered quite closely together. And Kashir on this Farah is going to set up a sort of double threat, the Sombra on the ground, the Farah in the sky. But Crazy Cat is going to be looking to shut both of these down on the Bastion. And Shy Guy, we're in for another treat. It's not quite dive, but it is going to be the dogfight. Both of these teams opting to field the pharmacy.
That will be fascinating because Sheer is going to have a lot on his shoulders playing that Farah in this matchup because the damage is not really going to be there from the other members of your team. The Sombra not going to be the one really contributing as much on that front as perhaps something like a Reaper. So Kashir really needs to be the one to disrupt this Bastion setup.
Yeah, the hack comes down immediately onto the Bastion, so you can see right there, primary target of Jai is indeed going to be that Bastion as the pirate ship begins to set sail.
Yes, but now Crazy Cat set up on the point and aware that the Sombra is in play, looking for that pick off potentially if Jai shows his face for just a little too long. But already the payload making its way through this choke point as the Farah is duel in the sky up around the tower. Kashir goes low, but not able to land 2 rockets in a row. They're both having to back off. PMA Jellies goes very low, was down in the fray, but still Scion committing to this fight with the Amp Matrix, with the Immortality Field, and they find a couple kills, but not really going to be enough to win the fight at the end of the day.
They sort of put down the amplification matrix in the hope that it's going to dissuade the defenders from collapsing in when they know that the Mercy is out of the fight. But that just doesn't happen. And yes, you do sacrifice your pharmacy, but the pharmacy is probably going to be back in time for when this this next push comes in on this payload. And Crazy Cat is actually going to swap off of the Bastion and onto the McCree, so they do acknowledge the threat that Cashier is posing, especially when this Farah has this barrage, and we're probably going to be seeing it coupled with this EMP that's going to be coming out very shortly from Jai.
And that is an absolutely disgusting shot from Cohesion off the climb from the Hanzo. Still does fall at the end of that, but an opportunity for Scion here. Crazy Cat with the double kill deals with the Far Mercy all by himself. And now that will be point A going over to Scion.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier about how Inked seem to be quite eager with their ultimates, the EMP mostly, but they do kind of put in the barrage into 2 barriers knowing that the EMP was coming up and online, but they just simply wouldn't wait for it to try and get that combo going. It does mean that they're going to have EMP for this next fight with Corey having this Sigma Flex and PMA Jellies just slipped onto Lucio, so further away from the Scion barrier, but the hack only gets 2.
They do get Cowman immediately, but the Coalescence keeping everybody else on Scion in the fight for the time being, and now they're looking to re-engage on the card. They lose Cohesion in the meantime, and with that hack onto Nitch, there's not really much of an escape route here for Scion. They're getting chased down towards their spawn. That's exactly what you needed as Ink.
No survivors gonna be there for the sort of motto that Inked have, trying to get all of those stagger picks. They're not quite gonna manage to clinch the team kill, but they do certainly manage to delay that payload from rolling through those gates. Cowman does have the Sigma Flex, both Sigma Flexes online and available, but Cowman actually gets hacked out.
Indeed he does, and he will go down to the Flux, and Strafology landing the finishing blow. So again, Scion taking control of the cart here. They commit that one ultimate, but they don't get any more out of it, and now the supercharger is up from Ink as they once again are looking to turn this one on its head. Kashir looking to get in the back line and find some picks, but eventually caught out there by Nitch. The Coalescence, though, from Fix should be enough for Scion to stay in there.
Cameron actually holds off on the Sigma Flex just long enough for Strafology to be able to get that Scion barrier online and bail his team out from taking all of the hits. As you hit the ground, it can be quite painful on your face, but PMA Jellies does have a Scion barrier of his own. Jai has been approaching this EMP, so the Lucio is most definitely going to be trying to just hold off on popping that ultimate until the very last moment.
Definitely will, and now that EMP just about to be in play for Jai, Will he find the opening they need? PMA Jelly's hiding around the corner from the rest of the team. Now pushing forward, and the EMP will find him. Jai gives his life for it, but the trade's going even right now, and the sound barrier now committed for Inked for Scion as they try to keep this push going. They're not ready to give this up. And Ink's just having to back off a little bit. They know that their spawns will be back faster. And can they use that to their advantage? They absolutely can. Kashir in with the Death Blossom to save the day.
Yeah, in definitely saving the day for the team. It could have been looking pretty rough for Inked if they hadn't managed to find the value that ultimate did. And now if you're Scion, you're trying to come in with ultimates of your own, this Death Blossom, but everyone is going to know the sort of angle that this Reaper takes. You either teleport, which then gives away your position immediately, or you just wraith into the middle of the enemy team, which again telegraphs like the solar flare what exactly your plan is going to be, and that is going to open the way for Crow to just shift grasp all of the damage coming in.
That's definitely something to worry about here, but they get the opening pick. Kashir will fall to Cohesion. Crawley, though, answers with the Flux, and the Death Blossom from Crazy Cat gets nothing done. Shut down immediately. So Inked will maintain control of this cart. We're under a minute for Scion to try to get this done.
But they threw in absolutely everything that they had in the bank, Shy Guy, to keep a hold of that cart. Jai is going to be coming up to this EMP once again, and it sort of seems as if this entire outcome hinges on how successful this EMP is going to be. Can Supreme this time manage to get away with not being caught in the blast?
This has to be huge, and it is. It hits 5. Can the follow-up come through for Inked? They get 2 immediately. They're trying to deal with the remaining members of Scion. It's gonna happen, but they take that fight so quickly that Scion definitely have a chance to get back in here for an overtime push.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a sort of misread on the ultimate tracking of Jai. Maybe they didn't think that the EMP would be up and available, because Supreme pops that Coalescence before the EMP even comes out, which is immediately cancelled. Niche is actually gonna be onto the Reinhardt, a little bit of a dinosaur of Overwatch, trying to get onto that payload faster.
Oh, and he goes down immediately, just swarmed on all sides. And now without a main tank, Scion trying to stay in this fight, trying to avoid a map 6 here, but it's not going well. They lose Cohesion in this fight. They've got the sound barrier to them in it, but the Coalescence there to answer from Fix, and so many ults almost on the line for Ink. They've got the Flux from Crawley to list them up, but the payload has reached the checkpoint. Ink, they can't stay on the cart, and now a little bit of life here for Scion.
Yeah, it is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for Scion. They're seeing an opportunity that they're grasping. They're finding the kills as well. So if you're Inked, you really do have to get this regroup to come in pretty quickly. The pillar does have quite a bit of ways to go through to get to that square rectangle, rather, where it needs to be. And you do have this EMP ready and available, probably going to be combined with this Death Blossom. But if you're Crazy Cat, you're looking for a huge Death Blossom of your own, surely, to be able to bail your team out at the last minute.
And now Niche on the wrecking ball here. It didn't want to give up the ult charge that he's built. The EMP is in, and Best Bulby slams on top of them. Inked slam through Scion, but they've done the same thing again here. They've taken that fight so fast that there is going to be a last chance for Scion.
I mean, it's a little bit of a silver lining. It's as nasty as it is to say you die so quickly that you have another shot at getting this payload. And we've seen them clinch it at the last minute before, and they've definitely got a lot more tools available for them this time around. The Coalescence and the Death Blossom, pretty soon to be the Mines as well, and those can really take up quite a lot of space, especially when a payload needs to be rolling through to a certain area.
Okay, both teams going to unleash those Coalescences. The Mines in the backline buy some space, and Niche and Cohesion have gone down. This might be the end for Scion. Spinning to winning is Crazy Cat. He finds 2 with the Death Blossom, looking for more here. Cowman chiming in as well with the accretion, and an opportunity for Scion to keep this going. They've got the numbers on the cart. They've got the Mines on the cart. It's just Jai in the area to keep the stall going, but Asombra is not going to be able to do it. Can Kashir get there? Gets booped up in the air, and Scion close it out on Dorado They barely get the payload across the finish line. They come away with the 3-1 victory.
I mean, that's just a summary of how close these two teams have fought this entire series. Anything done just a slightest bit differently, maybe you save your minds, maybe you manage to put them down after niche. Everything is suddenly immediately different, but it will be Scion eSports coming away with the hard-fought and much well-deserved win over the side of Inked, who will be dropping down to the losers bracket, not out of it just yet, Shy Guy.
Not by any means. I don't think we've seen the last of this team. They are far too good to go down without a fight. And that's just going to be an immensely impressive victory for Scion. I've got to say, they came into this tournament, and this is a team that I was largely unfamiliar with before we got here. They have impressed me from start to finish, and this is kind of the capper of that. This is there's still more to go, but this tells me the Scion team is absolutely 100 for.
What really impressed me with these guys was just that adaptability. When it was running into the Sombra, when it was running in to the Reaper that Ink decided to kind of dabble with, and then immediately swap off back into the Sombra. Scion, it took them a little bit of time to find their legs through those hacks and those EMP threats, but they did at the end of the day manage to get that victory pinned down, and surely it's because they adapted to how exactly Jai was coming in with those EMPs.
And I think that Inked has something there with those somber compositions. They looked quite practiced on it. Jai was making the most of those EMPs for the most part, but it kind of tailed off towards the end of that series as Scion adapted a little bit, made their comeback, and they really show some serious chutzpah in this series here tonight, and come away with the big win. They punched their ticket into the semifinal, and that is absolutely massive.
What really impressed me, other than the adaptability as well from the side of Scion, was the support lineup. These guys were absolute monsters in making sure that their team was alive through the engagements where they were perhaps at a sort of back foot, maybe in the ultimate economy, maybe in just the normal brawl they lose a couple of people and Inked have that numbers advantage, but Scion's supports just allow the team to pull through, and especially in the early hours, dodging those EMP blasts, the Lucio being able to bail the team out with those Scion barriers, not so much towards the end, because Jai did seem to have Jelly's number down towards the final fights, but definitely in the beginning, and that was absolutely key in making sure that these guys started off with the map wins. That definitely played a part in making sure that they got to that score where it was.
So now, as we look ahead to the rest of the tournament, we're winding down now. I mean, we're getting towards the late stages of the tournament. We now have one of our teams that's going to be in our semifinal. We'll find out the other tomorrow night as Dismissed take on the Dedicated Gaming, and that's another matchup that I am very excited to see. I want to know who Scion is going to be going up against next week with a spot in the grand finals on the line.
I mean, whoever they go up against, it's surely going to be a monster of a match. Dismissed, one of the more well-known teams of this tournament. We've seen them come in. We've seen them battle against Citizens. Both these two teams have kind of tightened. Citizens, I do believe, are still in this. They're currently fighting it out in the losers bracket, but Dismissed managed to punch their ticket against that matchup, and it's going to be actually Winter Solstice versus Love Shack getting set up in a couple of minutes. So definitely don't miss out that one. We're not going to be casting it, Shy Guy. We've actually got going to be headed off to bed. Both myself, I'm just gonna my head is gonna hit that pillow, and I'm just gonna be out like a light. Definitely trying not to look at the clock. And Shy Guy, do you have any sort of nice plans to wind down the evening with?
I don't know. I think I'm right there with you. A series like that, it takes a lot out of you from, I'm sure, the players' side of things, but for us as casters as well, that's a very high energy series throughout right there, and I am incredibly glad that we got to be here to witness it, that we got to see this go 5 maps between these teams. And on the tail end of it, we are going to be winding down the broadcast now. But before we go, just a little bit of added recognition for one of the members of Scion, Niche, going to be coming away with the viewers MVP here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that hamster managing to get those mines up in the wind down of that Dorado contest just really kind of clinched the payload for his team. Those mines, they can be so annoying to wade through, especially in those overtime contests where that clock is ticking down. And you can sort of hear it like a little bomb ticking away in your ear, and you get a little bit panicky, Shy Guy, and you run straight slap bang into one. Not saying it's happened to me. But it's definitely happened to many unlucky Mercies who've tried to run in and get a res, only to find an explosive and the spawn walls closing in on them once more.
Most definitely. Well, that is going to do it for us here tonight at the Overwatch All-Star Brawl presented by our Star Esports. Don't go anywhere. In just a few minutes, actually, the All-Star Trials are going to be right back on this channel. Just a few minutes break here in between games. For Got Moxie, for Refused on the production, I have been Shy Guy. It's been a pleasure to hopefully entertain you all this evening, and have a good night. We'll see you all next time.